Hey guys, it's Leo with Dreaming Tree, and today we're putting together our Good Tidings Paperscape card. It's been quite some time since we've done a Paperscape card. Essentially, it's a box card that has sort of a landscape or some sort of scene in it. Of course, it folds flat. And this card is going to feature a nice snowy scene, so it could work for, of course, the holidays and Christmas. Based on the caption that we have, but could also just be a nice card to send in the winter, obviously. So let's take a look at what we have here. And as always, I kind of like to do things systematically, and I like to work flat whenever possible. So that's what we're going to do. And well, let's just hop right into it here. So this piece here is the structural piece for, let's see which part. This is the middle layer. Okay, so we've got the structural piece, and you know it's a structural piece because it has little tabs on it. Okay, so we want to fold these, and we're going to do a mountain fold. So we're going to fold them back away from you. And this is the gemstone layer that's going to go on top of it. And that's going to add a nice little bit of bling and also make it nice and sturdy. So we're literally going to glue this right on top of our little backing layer. Now it is kind of, well, it's a lot of surface area to cover. So we're going to do our best to get this all in place in one fell swoop here. I've got a brand new bottle of glue, and I am going to kind of lay it on a little bit heavier than I normally would because of the surface area here. So get your glue, especially around the perimeter. I think it's probably the most important. And then start hitting all these little details here. Now, because this is like a gemstone paper, I can actually go a little bit thicker and not worry so much about things warping. Now, we do have a lot of fine little details here. You don't need to get it on every single little inch, but do your best to get it in as many little spots as you can. And then, of course, we're working flat here. Just want to pop that on there. I'm focusing my gaze on the trees initially, and then, well, the evergreens on the left, and then shifting my gaze over to the little birch trees on the right-hand side, and then everything else should just kind of fall into place. And if you don't get it perfectly lined up here at the bottom, don't even worry about it. It's going to be out of sight for the most part because it's going to be behind another layer. And you're probably wondering, well, what the heck is this little thing down here? Why is there this little gap right here? Well, the cool thing about this is once it's all done, and well, when you give it to someone, you're going to want to include a little tea light because you can shine some light up through the bottom to create a nice illuminated scene. And you can see, I don't know if you can actually see it very well in this shot, maybe not. You'll have to take a look at the final photo, I guess. But I do have some nice lavender inks or ink hitting some of these little areas here just to kind of create a little bit more separation since all of the layers are going to be white. Okay, so we have this piece ready to go. We can put that off to the side for now. And now we'll grab this piece here. It doesn't really matter what order you do this in. Now this is the frontmost layer. And again, this section here has little tabs on it. I'm going to take those tabs. Again, we're going to do a mountain fold. So you're going to fold those away from you. And we're going to take this piece and apply our glue and get this glued onto the main mechanism portion. Okay, so again, got a lot of little details here. So you got to try to work as efficiently as you can. I don't like to use the word quick because that just breeds anxiety in my head. So just be efficient. Be as efficient as you can be. Get a couple little drops here on these little leaves on this little plant here. There we go. Okay, hopefully we do that quick enough, and just lay that right on top of the shadow layer there. Make sure you get that nice and aligned, and then just give that a press. If it's slightly off, it's not the end of the world because, well, this is a white gemstone going on another white. It's going to be barely noticeable. We strive to do our best and not worry about perfection. There's no such thing. So don't worry about that word. Again, another word that just breeds anxiety. Okay, so we've got that piece ready to go. Put that off to the side. And then there's just one more layer here. And it's our little house. It's got, someone's having a fire. And actually, once I get done with this piece, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get my butt inside and start a little fire and relax a little bit before we get up tomorrow and do all of the trailer and photography and get this thing posted. No snow on the ground yet, but I'm sure it's coming, especially out here in Chicago. Okay, so we got our glue on that, putting it on the main mechanism portion of this section. Make sure you get that as accurately lined up as you can. And I didn't get any glue on the little smoke part of the house, so I'm gonna have to go in and fix that up. Now to do that, I always kind of take my scrap paper and cut it into little slices like this. And you just throw a little bit of glue on the corner of it and tuck it in between those two layers. Just kind of paint a little bit of glue on that little area there that we missed, and just give that a quick squeeze to get that in place. Okay, so 3 layers done. I can put that off to the side. And now I'm going to take a look at the main structure here, which is this guy here. And I've already pre-folded everything. Okay, so essentially it's going to be like that. We got to put a back on it. But before we do, we've got some panels that we need to apply to this. And this is just a white panel, and you can see, and again, maybe you can't. There you go. Yeah, there's a little bit of a nice lavender on there as well. And if you kind of think about it, I'm sure many of you, well, maybe not all of you, because you don't all live in a cold climate, but out here in the Midwest, where we do get our share of snow and nice wintry, snowy sunsets. You guys know those beautiful wintry sunsets where you got snow on the ground and the sky just kind of turns into this almost pastel-y pink and blue, kind of like this, actually. Just like the colors here that you can see here. We got the nice little pink there. So that's essentially what we're trying to replicate here. Some of the colors that you get in the winter. Just using nature as our color palette. Okay, so we'll get this piece in place as well. And I typically don't do it that way. I'll kind of do straight lines along the edge. I don't know why I just did that. Maybe I was blabbing too much, as always. And pop that right on there. Try to make sure that you get it centered so that you have a nice even border going all the way around. And if you're off by a little bit, it's fine. We're not robots. Or are we? Maybe I'm a robot. Sometimes I feel like a robot. Okay. Whoops. I got a little glue on there. I don't want that. Okay, so now this piece here is going to go like so. And again, we want to make sure that we maintain a nice border all the way around. You can see there's a border all the way around there. So let's flip this guy over and get our glue. It's a pretty large piece as well, so try to be efficient. I'm going around the perimeter first. Oops, I'm gonna go a little thicker and then try to get a little bit of glue on these little sections that are sticking out there. And then fill in the rest. That ought to do it. That should be good. Okay, and just drop it into place. I'm going to hold it from the center like that. Yeah, it's nice. I think I got it. There we go. And pop that into place, and that's off. There we go. Okay. Press that down. Hopefully we got glue in enough spots. And actually, what I failed to do here was use, and I forgot to mention it actually, there are some little guides here in the corners to help you with the placement of this. So I could have used that, but I didn't. That's okay. I still got it pretty darn centered. So that's an achievement. I've got a little area here that needs a little extra glue. It's just not sticking right. Press that down and just hold it, give it a little extra love so it don't go anywhere. And I've got one on that side there too. So even if you goof up like that and you don't get glue in all the spots, just know that you can always go in and just kind of fix things. It's never too late. There's always a way to go in, most of the time anyway. Most of the time there's a way to go in and clean up any little boo-boos. Not a big deal. Okay, so we got that in place, just like that. Let me take a look at my work. I've got a little bit of a gap there too. I'll clean that up. So this card, for those of you that really, well, it's almost like kudos to our art director, Ron, for the beautiful design. It's very, well, if there was ever a card that Bob Ross would approve of, this would be it. I mean, I'm sure he'd approve of a lot of them, but this is kind of, you know, it's kind of Bob Rossish because of the scene, the nature. I mean, that's what he typically paints, as landscapes, or painted, I should say. God rest his soul. Spent many a nights watching him on YouTube and falling asleep because he's very relaxing. Okay, so putting glue on this, I'm not even talking about what I'm doing here. I'm gonna grab this piece. This piece is going on next, and as you could probably have guessed, let me make sure that there's no, yep, that's good. We're gonna pop that right into place using the little, one of these little stick parts that are already part of the previous layer. Now I'm gluing foil to a paper that has some glitter on it. So I need to be a little patient and make sure that everything sets correctly. That is looking good. What is that there? All right, so that's that. There's gonna be a little bow that's gonna go right on the top of that. We're gonna put that together here in just a moment. In the meantime, let's put our little caption together. As I mentioned, I like to work flat whenever possible. So here is the shadow layer, and then we have good, and then tidings. Those are separate. So what I like to do is just squeeze a little bit of glue out of the tip of this thing, and I am just putting little dots throughout the back of this. They're really, really tiny. And if you get one that's too big, it's okay. You're just gonna take your finger and just kind of dab it a little bit and smush it. And thin it out a little bit so it doesn't create a giant mess on our little shadow layer here, okay? And on the shadow layer, you'll notice that there's a series of little cutouts, and those cutouts they're little markers, I should say, that kind of help you with the placement of our caption, just to make sure that you get it all nice and centered. Okay, so that looks good. And now, if you are using a foil, make sure that when you press down to push this down, you don't have any glue on your fingers, because it's almost impossible to get it off once you get it on that foil. I did that once, and then I tried to like maybe wipe it down with like a little bit of water, and that just really made it even worse. So you want to try to avoid that at all costs. But if you're not using foil, then you're in the clear and you don't need to worry about it. Okay, so again, just putting little tiny dots on this thing. On the second part of the caption here, the tidings part. And again, take a look at the little markers there and just position the caption within the little guides there to get that nice and centered. There we go. That's close enough. There we go. And So for the dots on the eyes, we're going to use some bling, probably just some small little rhinestones, but you can see how nice that looks. Okay, so that's done. Now, before we move on here, this is the back of the card, and we have, what is that? A flying spider. I don't know what that is. We have this white piece that we're going to glue on the back here, and that's going to be used to write or stamp, or you can have your cutting machine write something with like a pen, whatever you want to write for your sentiment. So we'll get this in place. And then here in just a moment, we're going to start putting this thing together because it's actually not that difficult. This one should go pretty darn quick. Okay, so the bottom part here where you have the cutout, as well as the rest of it, is going to have a nice even border all the way around. So just aim to make sure that in my case, the green is, well, equal all the way around. Okay, just like that. There we go. Beautiful. Just like that. Okay. Now, we're going to take this and we're going to attach it to one of these tabs. Okay, so just going to glue that down like so. And then we're going to glue it to the other side. So, I'm going to start off by putting glue on one of these tabs. Doesn't matter which side, just pick one. I'm just starting on this side, and I'm going to take my finger and spread that glue all the way out to the very edge of this tab, and then take this piece here. You can actually do this flat, and just get that lined up with the bottom. And when you do that, it should be pretty much lined up with the top as well, and just kind of butt it up against those score marks. Press down. Okay, and then you can fold it over onto that actual seam and then press down that way too. Okay, that's nice. There we go, beautiful. And now, let me see how that looks. That looks pretty darn good. And we can take our glue and apply it to this tab. And we can close this up and make this all one solid piece here. Make sure you spread that glue out to the edge. Don't have to, but I just know from experience that it makes it look a lot cleaner when it's all said and done. Okay, so you can actually put this down flat now, and then take this and literally just lay it right on there. It should match up perfectly. Okay. There we go. Give that a press. Now, actually, I recommend you do it this way because eventually this card does need to lay out flat or lay down flat. You should be able to flatten it out completely so that you can actually mail it flat. Now, because you're going to include a electronic tea light with this thing, well, either way, you still want it to be flat, but I would probably put this in a nice little small box along with the little tea light. Okay, so there is our main structure here, and we can start putting in the little sections here in a second. Okay, so, and you know what I just noticed? This is actually an ornament. Wow, how did I not notice that before? Very cool. Okay, this is the back layer for the background on this, and we do have a little moon. And you'll notice that on this piece here, there are a series of little markers to help you get this in the correct position so that it aligns nicely with the house and the rest of the scene. So throw a little bit of glue on your moon and use those little markers to get this piece nice and centered and in the right spot. Make sure you don't have any glue on your fingers if you're using foil like I am. There we go. Okay, so that's in place. Got a nice shiny moon. All right, here's what we're gonna do with this. We're gonna put glue on this, and we're gonna pop this in here. So when we put this down and get it glued, we do want to try to maintain a little bit of a green border. Well, in my case, green. Hopefully you can see that there's a tiny little bit of the back of this showing just around there. So there is a little bit of a border there. Okay, it's not that tough. Just make sure you try to get it centered on that back piece with a little bit of a border at the bottom around that hole, just to make sure that we get the moon in the right position. If you're off a little bit, it's not going to make or break the project, but again, try to make sure that you do get that centered. Okay, and let's get our glue. Specifically right now, I'm working around the perimeter, and I should probably move a little bit quicker. Okay, and it doesn't matter if you go from the top or the bottom. I'm probably going to slip this in through the top. Just pop it in there. Okay, and then again, I'm just looking at the very bottom where that little cutout is for our little tea light, and making sure that I'm maintaining a nice little even border there. And then when you do that, the rest of it just kind of falls into place. Okay, and there we go. So that was actually very easy. You just press that down into place. Okay, and you can see this nice paper that we picked out here. It has like a snowfall. Very appropriate. So we've got some nice snow falling on our scene here. And you can see what that's starting to look like. Okay, beautiful. So far so good. And we can begin putting in the layers now. And it doesn't really matter if you start back to front, front to back. I'm going to start with the back layer, which is this layer here. Again, make sure that your tabs are facing away from you, because what we're going to do is we're going to put glue on these tabs, and we're going to slide this in, and we're going to push those tabs against the sides on both sides here. Okay, so, and the cool thing is too, is we can actually accomplish that by folding it down like that. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean here. For those of you that have made our Paperscape box cards before, or Paperscape cards, you know what's going on here. And you don't need to worry about getting glue out to the very edges here. We just need to make contact, and I'm actually going to go a little bit thicker on the glue here, and then thin it out a little bit with my finger, because what we're attempting to do here is get it into place, and then we're going to fold it back and forth so that it just kind of finds where it needs to go. Now the bottom of this needs to be flush with the bottom of the box. So we're going to slide this in. Again, this is the backmost layer, so it's going in first. I'm going to slide it in and make sure those tabs are facing down, and you want to push this down all the way so that those tabs are touching the back layer. Okay, I'm going to put it up on its side and show you here like that. Now I need to flatten that down because it's kind of sticking up. So if you have a dowel or something, you can grab a dowel and use that dowel to push it. You want to push that, make sure that that tab, the very end of that tab is pushing and touching the back layer with our little snowflakes on them. I'm going to flip this around this way and push down here. Okay, and then while it's still kind of setting, go ahead and just fold it down like this. And that's really going to get it to go and stick, and then you can do it the other way. Okay, be patient. Make sure it's still touching there, and it is. And there you have it. Okay, so you can see how we've got that glued down. Now that tab right there is still, could use a little extra push there up at the top, but for the most part, there we go. And there we go. Perfect. Okay, so you can see how this tab, we put glue on the other side of this, and it's being glued to this wall. Okay, same with this, and this tab is also touching the back. This is the back. Okay, so that's in place, and again, folds this way, and it folds this way. Okay, and that's essentially the idea here. Okay, so there's our first layer. Beautiful. All right, second layer, this is the largest layer here. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put glue on this tab, slide it in, or on these tabs, slide it in. And that tab is going to go like that. Okay. And you can see, now this tab's a lot longer, but the very tip of that right there, let me point to it with my dowel right here, the tip of this down here is up against the back of the previous layer. So it's actually touching it. Okay. All right, so let me pull this back out. And let's get our glue on this tab. Go a little bit heavier so we have time to kind of adjust things before it fully sets. And also we'll have time to fold it back and forth a couple times just to make sure it gets in its right place, because each cutting machine is going to cut. There's like a, well, it doesn't, every cutting machine doesn't cut the exact same way. And in order for these to work, they have to be somewhat precise. When we try to, well, ours are mathematically 100% precise, but there's always a margin of error when you're cutting with the machine. Okay, so if it helps, you can kind of fold this a little bit and bend it or bow it to slide it in. And again, make sure that you take these tabs and they're touching the previous layer, and also you want to make sure that they're flush with the bottom. You don't want them sticking out like that. Okay, take a look at the top. Make sure that this is in the right spot. Otherwise, this ain't gonna work. There we go, okay. Now we can put them on its side. Grab your dowel, you can push down on that tab from both sides. Make sure it's in there all the way and touching the previous layer. That should do it. Okay, and now while it's still kind of not fully dry, go ahead and fold it over one way and give it a press. And then fold it over the other way, give it a press. It should fold nice and flat. And there we go. Layer 2 is in place. Look at that beautiful depth. Okay, so that just leaves one more layer, and this is our front layer. This one's gonna be pretty easy to put in. And same thing, just gonna put some glue on the sides. Those tabs should be facing away from you, that you wanna touch, make those touch the previous layer. Okay, so eventually it's gonna look like this. All right, let's take this out. And this one's smaller, a lot easier to work with. So this should be a breeze. Okay. Get that on there. Again, you can kind of bow it a little bit or bend it so it's easier to pop it in there and slide it up. And again, tabs are facing down. If you're looking at them from this angle, make sure you give this a nice push in. It should be nice and flush with the bottom and touching the previous layer behind it. You can put this on its side. I would use a dowel to press down on the tab from both sides. Flip it over. Make sure again that it's touching the previous layer. Okay, that's good. And again, nice fold. And it sounds weird, but just go with it. And fold it that way. Okay. Okay, and you can see how we've got the nice 3 layers there. And that is essentially it. Okay, if for some reason, mine looks good, except there's one tab there's one tab here that isn't really sticking for some reason. So what you can do is just, I got a little section there that needs some extra glue. I'm gonna put a nice thick chunk of glue on there. And you can lift that tab, peel it back, just throw a little glue under it, wherever it needs it. Pop it into place. Press that tab down. It's so hard to see from this angle, but if you need to go in and add glue to any of these tabs, it's never too late. You can just work on it from the side. Okay, that worked for me. And I'm going to just kind of leave it flat for a minute. I'll go this way once, and then this way once. Okay, and a word of advice here. I am rushing a little bit in between the layers. You want to give it a little extra time for each layer to fully set, okay? So just keep that in mind. I'm moving pretty quickly here. You may want to give it an extra minute or so for that glue to really take hold for each of the layers here, okay? But either way, as you can see, even rushing it, it still looks exactly how it was envisioned, and it looks really cool, actually. I love it. So anyway, we can move on to the final steps here. All we need to do is make our bow, put our bow in place, and add our little greeting, which is going to go right here. We're going to use some foam squares to kind of pop that into place, and then we've got an envelope to make, and we can call it a day. Okay, so as far as the bow goes, what you want to do is grab a dowel and just kind of begin to curve and train the bow to make it round. Okay, I've got a dowel. You can use anything that's essentially smooth and round. Okay, and what we're going to do, you'll notice that on the end of each of the little loops is a small rectangle. We're going to take and put a little bit of glue on the inside of the rectangle and bring it in and glue it to the little rectangle in between both of the loops. There's essentially, with the help of score marks there, another little rectangle. So you just want to glue the rectangle on this side of the loop to the rectangle in the center between both of the loops, and press and hold that down. And there's a little bit of resistance going on right now, so it wants to kind of come loose, but don't let it. Okay. And then we can just put a little bit of glue here, take the other little rectangle on the other side of the loop, and press and hold that in place. And probably give that at least 45 seconds, depending on how much glue you used. I went a little bit heavier. That's okay. And this is going to be my back, the back of my bow, because I got a little bit of glue that's squirted out, but no one's going to see that because it's going to be in the back. Okay, I think that'll probably hold. So we don't usually use these or include anything like this when we make our bows, but we did for this one just to kind of add a little bit of contrast. So this piece is going to go on first, and you may want to just kind of bend it a little bit so it's kind of almost U-shaped, not quite drastically as much as a U, but a little bit. Just kind of cup it, okay? And we're going to put glue on the center part here, and then work a little bit of glue out to the very tips here so that these sit nice and flat against the loops on the bow. Okay, and we're going to pop that right into the center and then up against each of the loops as well. Get that center in place first, and then you can kind of stick your finger inside the loop to push up against it from the inside. Same with this one here, especially that little tip, that long tip. You want to make sure that you get that nice and flat onto your cardstock. Okay, that looks pretty good. And we'll close it up and finish it up, excuse me, with this piece here. There's no score marks on this, but what we're going to do is pop that right in the center and then just fold it. Fold it over and behind on both sides so that we end up with something like this. And then what we can do is just take a little bit of glue and put it on one of these sections here, like so. Fold that down and then fold this one over on top of the area where we just put our glue. Just squeeze and hold for a moment. And let that set. And we have our little bow. Now, if for some reason on one of these sides the little point, actually, you know what, that turned out nice. I don't think I need to fix anything. But just like with anything, if you have any little areas that are sticking off, you can absolutely just take a scrap piece of paper, throw a little bit of glue on it, and just paint a little bit of glue underneath the area that's sticking up. And actually, I think what happened here was, I'm going to bust through that. There we go. Sometimes foil papers like this, there's like 2 layers. There's a really thin layer on the back and then the main foil layer, and they're like glued together. I think the foil actually came apart away from that backing layer. Okay, but there's your bow. Mine is nice and full looking, nice and round. And you're gonna take that and let me see, do we need to pop dot this? I don't think so. I think that's plenty of dimension there. And we're going to, the top part of this, the center part, we're going to align that, make that flush with the top of the actual box here. But you know what? Because that's foil, let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to glue it. I'll just be patient and I'll glue it. So throw a little bit of glue on the back part of your bow. And I hate when this happens to these nozzles. Okay. And pop this right in place. And again, get it nice and centered. Use that little little bell-looking thing just below it as your guide for centering, and then also the top of the center. Make sure that that's nice and flush with the top of the box. And just press and hold that in place. And finally, our little caption here. Let's see how this is going to look and where we want to place it. I think probably about there is good. And that being the case, I'm going to flip this over. And you know what? I've been gravitating towards these round foam circles lately. And we're going to need to make sure that we keep our foam somewhere off to the side, because there's a little gap here in the middle, and obviously it's not going to make contact with anything if we put one in the middle. So I don't want to put it all the way on the end either, because I want it to kind of distribute the weight a little bit. Okay, that being said, I'm going to stand up and do this so I don't mess it up. And get that. Let's say, where are we putting it, man? We're gonna put it right about there. There we go. That ain't even centered. That's not centered either. There we go. Perfect. Okay, and as you can see, it's going to fold nice and flat. I'm not going to fold it totally flat yet because I still got my my little tweezers there holding the bow down while that's set. So I'm going to put this off to the side, but you can see how beautiful that looks. And I'll show you what it looks like with a light in it here in just a minute. But before we do, I'm going to show you guys the envelope. Now, if you're mailing this out with a little electronic tea light, you may not even want to make the envelope. Well, I'd probably make it anyway, just to kind of keep it safe and secure. But that's optional. And obviously you don't have to make the envelope if you're hand delivering it, even then, probably would still be nice. So, you know what, just don't even listen to me. Make the envelope. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start off by gluing this large piece with just the one tab, which I've already folded, onto the bottom of this piece here with 3 tabs. So let's start off by getting our glue on the bottom tab of this 3 tab section. We're gonna do a nice thin line along the bottom. Spread that glue out like so. And again, with the tab facing up, take the bottom here, get that anchored, make sure you get it nice and centered and nice and aligned at the bottom. That looks good, I think. There we go. I'm gonna just press that down. Okay. And just be patient here while that's set. So we got a lot of surface area, as this is probably one of the larger envelopes that you'll see from us, just because this thing's pretty darn big. Okay, so now on this section here that has the 2 tabs, I'm gonna put some glue on that, and we're gonna close it up. So go ahead and Get your glue on these two tabs. And it's a big old envelope. Okay, spread that glue out to the very edge on both sides. Hopefully this isn't dry. Oh, it's getting there. Oh boy. Throw a little extra glue there. It's still tacky. It's not totally dry. All right, and then push these in. And just press that down. It should pretty much line up automatically if you did the first part right. That's good. That's pretty good. You can flip it over, press down from the other side. Hopefully we got it. I'm going to be patient here. I'm going to use my arms to put pressure on this whole thing. A lot of surface area to cover here. Okay. And if for some reason we didn't get it, it's okay. We're going to be able to clean it up if necessary by using our little scrap piece of paper. But actually, you know what? Because I use my arms like that, I think I got it. It's good enough. Okay. And then we have our flap. And essentially the way this is going to work, we've got, this is the little overlay that's going to go on top of this. You need to glue this part down first to this tab here. So this is going to go right here like so. Just like that. So go ahead and get your glue on this piece here. I might have overdone it with the glue there, but as long as you thin it out and spread it out, it should not warp the paper at all. Okay, and just pop that right on there, get it nice and flush and aligned, right with the very edge of the top. And just press that down. Give that a few moments to dry. Okay. And, well, while we're finishing this up, I do want to mention that all we're really going to do is, again, I'm going to put some rhinestones in places here for the dots on the eyes, and probably going to throw a few little rhinestones on the front here on this white section just to kind of create the feel of like snowflakes because of the nice reflection that sometimes they give when the light hits them just right. Okay, so now we're going to take this second layer and pop that right on top so that underneath here we have a nice little scalloped just scalloped little edge, and then of course we got the snowflake with some snow there. Okay, so get your glue on this piece here. Try to go easy with the glue here. I want to warp the paper. And then try to maybe do a few little dots on the snowflake. There we go. And just align the flat part there with the top. Make sure it's centered, and then the rest of it will just kind of automatically fall into place. And just press down. Okay, hopefully my little tweezers there are doing their job, making my bow stay in place. I think by now it should be dry. Okay, and this envelope is pretty oversized. I know that bow is pretty dimensional, so if you are going to put it in this envelope, I would probably put this into a bubble envelope if you're going to mail it, or a small box, so that things don't get ruined. And I definitely would not throw it in the mailbox. I would have it hand canceled. Okay, so let's take this off. Yeah, my bow is nice and solid. Folds that way, and how's it looking up there? Looks good. And you can see here, it should fit nice and snug. Well, actually, not even snug. There we go. And that bow, again, you have to flatten it out, which is fine, not a big deal. I don't want to do it right now because I still have to photograph this thing and I want it to be nice and full. But envelope is done. Again, beautiful. And our beautiful card, ready to go. And there it is. Okay, so again, I'll put a few little rhinestones here and there just to bling this out. Oh, and here, hold on a second. Of course, again, if you want to, there we go. I don't know how well that's going to show up in this video. Let me see here. There we go. Well, yeah. There you go. Look at that. Very cool. I think it's brilliant. This will show up a lot better in the trailer, which I hope you probably already saw. And yeah, beautiful card. I don't know who's going to get this one yet. We're going to find out who's been the nicest. Probably won't be giving this to anyone that's been naughty, that's for sure. But anyway, I will probably go out on a limb and say that this is probably one of my favorite cards ever. So kudos to the team. Thank you, Ron, for the amazing design, and Diana for making it easy to put together, and beautiful. I'm going to see a lot of these in the group, I got a feeling. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please take a moment and visit our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, and while you're there, hit the little bell so that you get notifications anytime we release a new product. And if you make this or anything from our newest bundle, I would love to see it, and so would the rest of our community. So head over to your Facebook, do a search for Dreaming Tree Group, or you can type in the little URL that will pop up at the bottom of your screen. It'll take you right there. And yeah, let us know what you think about the card, and I'm interested to hear stories from the people that receive it and see what kind of feedback they give you. But either way, I had a blast. I hope you did too, and as always, I look forward to crafting with you again.